yes, hello all of you who might be watching this on YouTube. Thank you so much. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel and leave a comment. I always love to hear what you say. And watch all the YouTube videos. There's a whole channel there, lots of videos. Okay, so everybody, thank you. Thank you for being here. This was an interesting week for me. Lots of things happened this week. One of the things that happened, which is something that happens every month, which is we put out an issue of our incredible magazine, Miracles Monthly, which has gone out every month now for 30 years. So this is the end of volume 30. Wow. So 30 years, 30 times 12, 360 issues of Miracles Monthly in 360 months. So, not that I'm into big numbers, but sometimes big is better. It's great. Anyway, I'm just so happy that we completed that, and Miracles Monthly still goes out there. And as Reverend Kelly and I know, many of our supporting members especially, who don't live locally, really love getting Miracles Monthly in the mail. So here it is, and I'm really happy about that accomplishment. Of course, what that actually means is we are approaching our 30th birthday. So we were, it's a little hard to decide and what we call our birthday, but generally we call our birthday by the Community Miracle Center's Incorporation Day, and the first time that we had a Sunday service. We called them back then Sunday services. And we were in Haight at that time. So that was in 1987, the first Sunday in March. And so the first Sunday in March, or around that time, 2017 is 30 years. So I do want to make an announcement that we are going to have a special Sunday gathering on March 12th. And we will have champagne, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic champagne, and a wonderful celebration cake. We're going to have a special gathering, so I invite you all to come to celebrate our 30th birthday on March 12th. Reverend Kelly and I are going to share the corner here and chat. So I did a rough estimate. I think that means we've done 1,594 Sunday gatherings. We did miss 1 week when the 2269 Market Street address was being painted, and we thought that that would be done in time for us to clean up and have a gathering there, but actually there were complications, and at the last minute the place was a total disaster, or just, you know, the painting was going on. We couldn't have the service there. So and all those Sundays we missed one when we were painting. So 1,594 Sunday gatherings, and I mean that's a really big number, and that's miraculous in and of itself, especially when you look around at our gatherings and at our services, because we're small, and we've always been rather small. And if you would look at it and just take it on the basis of the analysis of a particular gathering, you might wonder, how could this church survive this long anyway? But it's been a miracle the whole time. It's a miracle the way it all happens. We just got a really large donation last night, actually, by somebody who lives in another country. It's a long story, I don't have to go into that. So it's just amazing the way the resources come to us to keep doing the work that we do. I always say you definitely have to see the hand of the divine in all of that. But our numbers have never been large, and of course sometimes we ask ourselves the question of why? Why is that? And what I think it is, I mean it's a combination of a lot of factors probably, but what I think it is the basic message of A Course in Miracles, if you really stick to it, if you really stick clearly with A Course in Miracles, it's a really tough sell. It's a really tough sell to really accept personal responsibility for the entire world, for everything that is going on, that we are not victims of the world that we see because we have invented the world we see. I mean, those are today's review lessons. We've invented this world. We're not victims of it because we're making it up. That's kind of hard. Now, people are usually willing to embrace the idea that they are not a victim. But they relate to that idea in a worldly way, in a very different way than what A Course in Miracles is actually teaching. When people think I'm not going to be a victim, what they usually mean is I am not going to be disempowered by this very bad thing that happened to me. I'm going to use that as a rallying point, and I'm going to be empowered. I will not be a victim. I am going to be made powerful by this thing. I will reperceive. I will use it as motivation to rise above. And mostly, that's what people hear when you talk about not being a victim. And that actually is a pretty good sell. And you can rally quite a few people, I believe, around that idea. And many people do. And many organizations do. But when A Course in Miracles says we're not victims, it's really meaning something very different. So we're not a victim of any kind of abuse and discrimination that might have happened in our lives. And that doesn't mean that we just rise above it and be empowered by it. What it means is we realize that at some level, we actually were at cause with all of that stuff. We were at cause. We manifested the abusers. We manifested the world doing whatever it was that it seemed to be doing to us. And that's a tough sell. So when you start selling that or trying to really come from that perspective, suddenly all the people that thought they were coming around to be empowered, they started off back away. I remember that line from the great movie and song by Arlo Guthrie, Alice's Restaurant, and he's talking about being inducted into the Army, and he says, and they all moved away from me at the Group W bench. So when they thought he was a little weird, they all kind of moved away from him. And I think that's what happens with A Course in Miracles students who really want to embrace the teaching at a profound, deep level. They all kind of move away from us. Because it's one thing to want to be empowered by what happens in our life, and it's another thing to think that somehow we caused all that. I mean, think of it. African Americans feel their world discriminated against us, and there's certainly a lot of evidence about that. But A Course in Miracles is saying, well, that may have appeared to happen, but at some level, you were a cause of all that. And that's the level that you have to go to when you're not being victimized, if you don't want to be a victim, because you have invented the world, you see. That's a tough sell. If you want to do with the gay community, the LGBTQ community, and they have a lot of reason to believe that the world did some pretty hard discrimination against them. And yet, if you go to the Course in Miracles perspective, then you got to go to we manifested that. And if we really want to be empowered, we have to really realize how we were at cause at all that. That's when they all start moving away from you on the Group W bench. My liberal friends right now, they're upset about President Trump. And I tell them, if I have the opening, that, we all caused President Trump. We invented the world that we see. We manifested that. If we want to truly be empowered by it, then we have to get that. That is us, and we manifested that. And that, indeed, is a tough sell. You are not the victim of the world you see because you invented it. You can give it up as easily as you made it up. So that's the kind of strength and empowerment that A Course in Miracles is talking about. So we look at the world, and we look at the people who seem to be disempowered, and we see people who appear to be scared, we see people who appear to be angry, we see people who appear to be lonely. We see people who appear not to have many resources, and maybe people that we might call as poor. And we think, in our regular perception of things, that's a mass of people. That's a lot of people in the world that are lonely or sick or powerless, and I don't want to be part of that mass of people that is like that. But there is a certain percentage of people that do seem to have a certain mastery of the world. They seem healthy. They don't seem lonely. They don't seem poor. They don't seem disenfranchised. And whatever that percentage is, that percentage of the people that seem to have made it, or to seem to have accomplished something, maybe it's just peace. Maybe they have more peace and happy. They seem happy and peaceful. What percentage is that? Is that like 5%? Is that 2%? Maybe it's just 1%. The top 1%. Wouldn't A Course in Miracles help me achieve that top 1%? And I think a lot of people study A Course in Miracles hoping that they can move themselves to that top 1%. But that's no movement. That's not a game changer. A Course in Miracles isn't about moving us to the top 1%. A top 1% still means one thing, that there's 99% below you, and that's still playing into the whole world of differences. But if all we're doing is moving ourselves up to the upper level, the whole world is still exactly the same. That's like rearranging the deck chairs on the sinking Titanic. So we want to get away from the part of the Titanic that's underwater. Let's move up to the part of the Titanic that's not underwater yet. But you know, it's all going underwater. So moving ourselves up to the top 1% isn't really what A Course in Miracles is about. But you have to do a real deep dive into the metaphysics of A Course in Miracles to really get that. A Course in Miracles is about a radical change of the game itself. And the goal, and the goals that A Course in Miracles, I believe, is moving us towards, we don't see evidence for in the world yet. I mean, people tend to set goals and they look at the world and they see, what's the best I see going on there in the world? I'm going to shoot for that best. Whatever it is, peace, happiness, love, abundance. I'm going to shoot for that best. But that's a best that's defined by the world we currently see. And what A Course in Miracles is trying to get us to see, that we need to shift our mind, and when we shift the mind, the world is going to be entirely different, in a radical different way. We can't know what to work towards truly because it hasn't manifested yet. It's something completely different. As Monty Python used to say, now for something completely different. Studying A Course in Miracles is us saying, now for something completely different, something that I don't even see out there in the world. It's not about us going for the 1%. It's about us getting out of the percentage game altogether and manifesting an entirely different world. I'm just like everybody else. I want more love and peace and abundance and strength, and I want an abundant life. But I don't know what that is going to look like. I have to move in a spirit-guided way towards something that I don't know what it looks like. And that's a particular challenge, but I think that is the challenge of A Course in Miracles. When I look out on the world, what I see currently is a lot of limitation for a vast majority of people. I see a lot of bodies that seem to go through an aging process that is debilitating. I see most bodies then at the end of this aging process go through an even more excruciatingly painful, debilitating sickness process, and then, quote, die. And I don't believe that is the world that we'll see when we've truly done the work that A Course in Miracles wants us to work. We're about manifesting a world, I believe, that doesn't have these images of aging and debilitating existence and death in it. And we don't know what that's going to look like. And people say, well, that's not possible. But whenever they say that's not possible, they look at the world that they're seeing and say, show me where that has shown up. And I keep saying, it hasn't shown up yet because we haven't opened our minds to it. We have to open our minds to that possibility before it will show up. You expect to see it first and then work towards it? No, it's a different process. We have to open our minds and work toward something that we can't see. That's the entirely different game that A Course in Miracles is asking us to play, I believe. So we have thoughts of limitation, debilitation, life and death. And so we seem to see things that appear to die. Sometimes through a sickness process, sometimes through a violent process. And maybe there's this small percentage where it doesn't seem to happen that way. The people who go peacefully in their sleep while everything seems to be fine. And you say, I'll take that little 1%. I'm going for that 1% experience. But that's just rearranging those deck chairs on the Titanic. That's not the goal. The goal is a totally transformed way of looking at the world, and a totally transformed way that the world actually appears. And does that mean that we're going to have physical immortality? I don't know what it means. I don't know what it means. But it means that I need to be totally open to the possibility of it meaning something completely different, and I have to be totally open to the reality that the only reason we see death in the world is because of the death thoughts that we have in our minds. That's it. A Course in Miracles, I think, is pretty clear about that. It says, are thoughts then dangerous to bodies? Yes. The thoughts that seem to kill are those which teach the thinker that he can be killed, and so he dies because of what he learned. He goes from life to death. But it's just because of our thoughts. If we were to heal those thoughts, what kind of world would we manifest? People don't think it's even possible to heal those thoughts. But it is. It is. I know it is. It's got to be. That's the truth that keeps bubbling up in my mind. It's got to be. And when those thoughts are healed, the world is going to be entirely different. We have to stop using out there as our witness to what is possible. What is possible is not yet out there. What is possible has to come from something deep within. And you think about, in the Bible, after Jesus had the crucifixion and then the resurrection, and then some of his apostles doubted it, and Thomas doubted it. That's why we call him Doubting Thomas. And then after Thomas saw Jesus, and Jesus proved to Thomas that it was he, first Thomas didn't even recognize him, because it wasn't an impossible thing for Thomas to see. But then eventually, Thomas saw. And Thomas said that now he saw, so now he believed. And Jesus saith unto him, Thomas, because thou hast seen me, thou hast believed. But blessed are those that have not seen, and yet have believed. See, A Course in Miracles is asking us for a certain faith and a belief to believe in what we haven't seen yet. We haven't seen it yet, but we have to have faith, and we have to have a belief that it's possible. And that's why I chose the reading for today. And you may not even remember it yet at this time. This is a very transformational reading in A Course in Miracles, and it's a very confrontational one, and it's one that I never hear teachers talking about because it's so radical in what it says. Nobody wants to touch it. It's the reading where they all move away from you on the Group W bench because nobody really wants to deal with A Course in Miracles on that level because it's difficult to deal with it on that level. So A Course in Miracles is talking about what this world could be. It's talking about the real world, which is this world. The real world is not heaven. The real world is this world, but such a close reflection now to reality that A Course in Miracles calls it, quote, the real world. But it's still an illusion. It's still a dream. But then A Course in Miracles gives us a little description of what this dream is going to look like. So let me read it again, and now think about it. That's this world. The real world is not like this. It has no buildings. There are no streets where people walk alone and separate. There are no stores where people buy an endless list of things they do not need. It is not lit by artificial light, and night comes not upon it. There is no day that brightens and grows dim. There is no loss. Nothing is there but shines and shines forever. So the world that we're supposed to be manifesting doesn't even have day and night. It just has day. It just has light. It just has life. It just has abundance. And we're supposed to be manifesting that dream in physical reality. That's the real world. That's what it could. Now that's a radically different world than the world that we see, and that's a radically different goal than just going for the 1% experience, shooting for that top 1%. No, it's in a completely different game. It's a completely different game to think what we're looking for is a world that is constantly light with no night, where there is no death in it. You know, I was reading something channeled by somebody else, not Helen Schuckman, but channeled through Jesus, and apparently, believe it or not, I don't know, but it was talking about this very thing. And the person was saying, well, how could that be? And Jesus said, your science will just catch up with it. He says, you know, right now you don't see it, but he says, you don't understand that science just matches what you see. So when that happens, science will have a way of describing it. He says, don't worry about it. Just keep moving in that direction and let science catch up with it. So we don't know. We don't know how it could be that we could have a world where there wouldn't be images of physical death and sickness and debilitation, and that would be totally light and never night. We don't know how that could be, and that's fine. We have to be able to hang out with that uncertainty. We have to choose responsibility at a higher level than just ability to respond. I used to think of responsibility as just an ability to respond. It's more than that. It's way more than that. It's not an ability to respond to things that maybe seem negative. Remember the responsibility prayer. I am responsible for what I see. I chose the feelings I experience, and I decided on the goal I would achieve. And everything that seems to happen to me, I ask for and receive as I have asked. Everything that seems to happen to you, whether it's abuse or discrimination, at a certain level of cause, we asked for it and we received it as we asked for it. That's the empowerment. We need to come from that level of empowerment. That's the bigger game. That's the game changer. That's what A Course in Miracles is actually teaching. That's why it's a tough sell. And that's why we don't have the big numbers yet. Thank you. That's it for today.